So the slide should be visible now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we were discussing this yesterday, and I made a small mistake which I would like to correct. And if I correct that, you guys will also be very clear. That is what I thought after the class. So I'll just tell you that, and then we will proceed further. Okay, this is what we saw yesterday. Okay, initially the balloon was flat, and then it expanded to 0.5 meter cube. Okay, and initially this volume of the balloon is 0, and nothing is mentioned about the volume of the bottle. But let's say the volume of the bottle is 5 meter cube. Okay, so what happens is when but in this case, what have they said in the problem? Gas from a bottle of compressed helium is used to inflate, which means not everything is going. It doesn't mean that everything is going, but 0.5 meter cube of air is getting into the balloon. Okay, so let's say the volume of the bottle is 5 meter cube, which is not actually mentioned in the problem. But what we know is that volume is constant. So since the system volume is constant, so work done by or on that particular system is going to be equal to 0. But when I explained, what I did was, see, because the volume of the bottle is 5 meter cube, what would be the volume of air inside this water bottle? Sorry, what would be the volume of gas inside this bottle? The volume of the bottle is 5 meter cube. What would be the volume of gas inside this bottle?
The volume of the bottle.
The same.
Exactly, it will be 5
5
meter
meter cube.
cube. Because the property or the characteristics or the behavior of the gas is such that it can occupy any amount of space, even if the bottle is 10 meter cube, that same amount of gas will be able to occupy 10 meter cube of volume, right? So that is the nature of a gas. Okay, so now when I opened this valve, some amount of air entered in, and it inflated the balloon, and we found that it was 0.5 meter cube of air. What about the volume of air in this bottle?
Reduced.
That is what I said yesterday, and that is where I made the mistake. Actually, the volume of the air doesn't get reduced. See, 0.5 meter cube is the volume of the balloon. So when air entered in, it was able to occupy that maximum volume of 0.5 meter cube. Okay, some amount of air left out. Okay, but still when that some amount of air has left out, the remaining amount of air will still occupy how much volume of this bottle? What I said yesterday was,
The same 5
yes,
meter cube.
exactly, you guys have now understood.
Yes,
Even
sir.
when I remove some air and this balloon became 0.5 meter cube, the volume of air or the gas inside this bottle is still 5 meter cube. That is why there is no change in volume here. So the work done is 0. Whereas in this case, the volume changes from 0 to 0.5, and that is why we have a work done. Okay, but when I said yesterday, because 0.5 meter cube of air enters here, so 0.5 meter cube gets reduced. I said something like that, and that is wrong. Okay, the volume doesn't get reduced. In reality, the amount of gas inside this bottle gets reduced, but still that amount of gas will once again expand and occupy the entire bottle, and once again the volume of the gas will be 5 meter cube, and that is why we say there is no work done in this bottle. uh, Kaushik, is that clear to you? You were asking me yesterday.
Yes, sir. Now it is clear.
Now it is clear, right? So only after the class I was thinking about it, and I thought I should share it to the class. And and if you look at this perspective, look at it in this perspective, then it will be very clear to you. Okay, Okay, so
Yes.
that is what I thought I would share you at first, and then we will proceed to the
Then
regular.
in this case, pressure will be reducing. Yes.
Exactly, pressure will be reducing, no doubt about it. But because the volume is constant, the change in pressure is not going to be a matter in case of work done, because it is a closed system. PdV, dV becomes zero, so work done is still zero. Okay,
Okay, sir.
so that change in pressure is not going to be of use to us. So that's it. Okay. Okay, guys. So I've already talked about homogeneous system. So pure substance is one such example. It is homogeneous, which means the chemical composition of the substance is not going to change. It is going to be the same. Okay. And as it is put forth in the slide, it may have one or more phases, but the chemical composition remains unaltered. Okay. So you can see liquid water, that is a pure liquid water where there is no additional vapor or ice. That is also a pure substance. You just have liquid water, that is a pure substance. You have a mixture of water and vapor, that is also a pure substance. Mixture of ice and liquid water, that is also a pure substance, because in all these examples the chemical composition is just H2O. There is no change in it. Okay, so if you have the same chemical composition, then we can say that it is a pure substance. So is air a pure substance? Normally, in a generic sense, for assumption, people will say air is a pure substance. But if you look at the composition of air, you have oxygen, you have nitrogen, you have got sometimes you even have water vapor, okay, and you have inert gases. So the chemical composition will change at times. So in a real scenario, air cannot be treated as a pure substance. Okay, the chemical composition, if it remains the same, then we can call it as a pure substance. If the chemical composition changes, then we can't say it as a pure substance, and therefore your air doesn't come into that particular category. Okay, and um, this is a vapor liquid solid phase equilibrium, and we can understand this with a very simple example. Okay, so here there is a cylinder piston arrangement, and inside the cylinder I have a certain mass of liquid water at a particular temperature, say 30 degrees centigrade. Okay, now what I do is I start heating this water from outside. I supply heat to this liquid water. Okay, so what I do is I heat it from 30 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. Okay, I raise the temperature of water. I supply heat, and when I supply heat, the temperature raises from 30 to 60. What will happen to the volume of this water? Will it remain the same, or will it increase, or will it decrease? What do you guys think? When I heat water and the temperature of the water raises from 30 to 60, what will happen to the volume? Yes.
The volume will
It will
increase
increase.
atoms are kind of excited state maybe. Like they would convert into vapors, and the vapors would
Yeah, you are
yeah.
talking about a much higher temperature. I'm
Yes,
simply
yes.
saying at a lower heat supplied, say 30 degree to 60 degree. That is the amount of heat that I have
So it
supplied.
will tend to expand
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
and
it will
increase in
tend to
volume.
expand, which when we say it tends to expand, the volume slightly increases. It will not be a much of an increase, but there is a slight increase in volume. Okay, so I have simply supplied good. That is the correct answer. So I have supplied heat, and I have raised the temperature of water from 30 to 60. And when I did that, the volume of the water has increased slightly. That is the first diagram. Then what I do is I further heat it, which means I still allow the water to raise its temperature. It has reached 70, 75, 80, 85. It goes on, it gets heated up. And at 99.6, that is the temperature that they give, or we can simply say 100 degrees centigrade. At 100 degrees centigrade, what will happen? Water will turn into vapor. Okay, so at 100 degrees centigrade, water starts getting converted into steam. Vaporization of water starts. Okay, so um, don't worry about this graph. I'll just go into this slideshow. Only then I will be able to use this pencil. I'll minimize it once again. Okay, so if uh, we have temperature here, and I have heat supplied. Okay, Q is heat supplied. When I supply heat initially, okay, it is at 30 degrees centigrade. So this is 30 degrees centigrade point. Okay, when I supply heat, it goes up to 100. There is a rise in temperature up to 100. So the temperature of water is raised from 30 to 100. So let me call this point as 100. Okay, and at 100 degrees centigrade, what happens is the liquid it starts turning into vapor. Vaporization begins when it reaches 100. Okay, and if I further heat it, if I further supply heat, what will happen is you won't find a change in temperature, but there is a change in phase. Okay, so when I move from 30 to 100, the heat supplied was utilized for raising the temperature of water, and people call that as sensible heat. Maybe some of you would have learned this in your physics or chemistry. Okay, people call it as sensible heat. What is sensible heat? The heat that is supplied to raise the temperature of a solid, liquid, or gas. So the heat supplied simply raises the temperature of that particular entity. When I further heat it, it has reached 100, and when I supply heat, you can see that the temperature remains constant. It is at 100. But what happens in this particular region is water gets converted into steam. Here, water starts getting converted into steam, and at this point, everything has been converted into steam. So this heat is called latent heat. Latent heat is the amount of heat that is given to convert or to change the phase of a substance. So it can be either from ice to liquid, or it can be either from liquid to vapor. That heat is called latent heat. Okay, so if then after 100 degrees centigrade, where everything has been converted into steam, if I further supply heat, maybe to 150 degrees centigrade, say at this particular point it is 150 degrees centigrade, the steam becomes superheated steam. Your steam is further heated, okay, and it becomes superheated steam. So can you guys tell me what form of heat it is? Is it sensible or latent? When I raise the temperature of steam from 100 to 150, what type of heat it is? Is it sensible? Yeah, it is sensible. So I'm simply raising the temperature of the vapor. So if you are simply raising the temperature of a solid or a liquid or a gas, in our case, a vapor, then we call it as sensible heat. If you are using the heat supplied to convert or to change the phase of a substance, then we call it as latent heat. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, so now in the first diagram, I have simply raised the temperature from 30 to 60, and here I have gone to 100 degrees centigrade, where part of vapor has water has converted into vapor, and further I supply heat where all of the water has been converted into vapor, and it has gone into the superheated state. Okay, and you can see, if you can plot a graph between pressure and temperature, okay, then you will get a curve like this. Okay, but to be more precise, because when I used a curve, this is how I was able to get it. I'll draw it here. So pressure in the y-axis and temperature in the x-axis. Your curve will look something like this. Here there is a small bend. That bend you will not see. You will see a curve like this. One part of a bell curve. Okay, so that is your pressure temperature diagram. If you plot it, you will get something like this. Okay, and I told you, when it reaches 100 degrees centigrade, the vaporization starts. Your water gets converted into vapor at 100 degrees centigrade. Correct? Okay. And the moment vaporization starts, or the temperature at which vaporization starts, that is called as saturation temperature. The temperature at which vaporization of water starts, that is called saturation temperature. Okay, the temperature at which vaporization of water takes place, that is called saturation temperature. And the pressure corresponding to the saturation temperature is called as saturation pressure. Okay, now before proceeding further, I will introduce you to this particular graph. And this graph you should be very familiar with hereafter. Okay, we will be using this graph again and again. Here what I have shown is the temperature volume graph, but later on we will be talking about pH chart, pressure enthalpy diagram, where also you will have a similar bell curve, and we will be discussing that. Okay, so try to follow me a little bit carefully. Okay, is the lower part of the graph visible to you guys? Are you able to see the x-axis of the graph?
Yes,
Some
sir.
of you. Okay, okay, fine, very good. Okay, now take this particular part of the graph. Okay, AB. Are you able to see this line that I am drawing? This red color line AB. This is nothing but sensible heating. I am raising the temperature of water. Okay, and you can look at it. I am raising the temperature of water at a constant pressure of 0.1 megapascal. Megapascal is 10 to the power 6 pascal. So 0.1 into 10 to the power 6 pascal. So I can also call it as 1 bar. Okay, 0.1 into 10 to the power 6 is equal to 1 into 10 to the power 5. Okay, I can either call it as 1 bar or 0.1 megapascal. And you can see A, B, C, D. This entire line, A, B, B to C, and C to D, everything follows a constant pressure. Okay, it is a constant pressure line. Okay, this entire process takes place at 1 bar. Okay, but what is happening here is the temperature is raised from A to B. Then there is a constant temperature line, which means here phase change is happening. Okay, and at this point, at the point C, everything would have been converted into vapor, and from C to D, your steam is now becoming superheated. Is that clear, guys? Okay, so that happens at 1 bar. Then you can see this, the next part, which is 1 megapascal, which means 10 bar. There you can see that is EF. EF is sensible heating. FG is once again latent heating, and GH is superheating steam. That is also sensible heating. And you can see IJKL. There also it is 100 bar. And then look, this we will see later on. Okay, this particular point N, you can see that there is MNO. I'll tell you what it is. But what you should focus here is, okay, now I am joining all these saturated liquid lines, because at this particular point everything is in liquid state and it just starts getting converted into vapor form. Okay, this particular thing is not visible, so let me take the black one. Okay, this point B, this point F, and this point J, all these are saturated liquid lines. So what they do is they connect this particular line. Okay, I'm not sure if yellow would be visible. Let's see. It's not visible. Maybe a dark blue. Okay, if I connect this B, F, J, okay, this part of the curve, I am joining all the saturated liquid lines. So this particular part of the curve is called saturated liquid line. It is written here. Okay. And if you look at this part, NKGC, if you connect all these points here, then that makes it a saturated vapor line. Okay, now you have got a bell curve. Okay, and what is important is, to the left side of this bell curve you have got the liquid region. To the right side of the bell curve you have got the vapor region, and in between you have got the liquid plus vapor region. Okay, and this is very, very important. Okay, on the left side you have got the liquid region, in between you have got the liquid plus vapor region, and on the right side you have got the vapor region. Okay, and if you look at this particular line, MNO, if you consider this particular line MNO, if you look at it, okay, at this there is only one point here and then it just goes on into O. So this particular point is critical point, wherein you will not be very precisely able to tell you will not be able to tell whether at this particular point is it in liquid state or is it in vapor state. You will not be able to say that, and that is why we call it as critical point. Okay, what we will be able to say is, to the left of this N everything is liquid, to the right of this M and O line everything is in vapor state. We will not be able to say at N is there a liquid plus vapor region. No, we will not be able to say. We will not be able to say how it has transferred from liquid state to vapor phase. We will not be able to tell. And the pressure is 22.09 megapascal. So this particular pressure is called the critical pressure. And the temperature is, I think it's 374 point something. Yeah, 374.14 degrees centigrade is the critical temperature, and 29.09 megapascal is the critical pressure. Okay, and people call this particular point is called as the point of inflection. Okay, where the slope of the temperature volume diagram is 0 at point N, because you will not be able to have it is just a point at that particular position. At N it is simply a point. There is no curve here. At N there is only a point. So at that particular point you can see that you will have 0 slope, where saturated and vapor and the liquid states are identical. So that is your critical point. Okay, sometimes in some question papers they ask you to find a particular property at the critical states also. So you should remember this critical temperature and critical pressure. So critical temperature is 374.14 degrees centigrade and critical pressure is 22.09 megapascal, and this is for water. Similarly, if you are drawing it for say some refrigerants also, you will have critical point for those refrigerants. Okay, and if you look at this, the next one, the next curve, PQ, and for PQ, even for at least for MNO there was a critical point. For this particular curve PQ, there is not even a critical, there is no critical point at all, which means here for this particular curve, you will not be able to say where the liquid state is, where the vapor state is, you will not be able to say anything. Okay, so you have to, so if it is below the critical temperature, then we will say it is liquid. If it is above the critical temperature, then we will say it as vapor. Okay, so this is your temperature volume diagram. And one more important thing is, then in some cases, we will be very much interested about this region, this liquid plus vapor region. Okay, because um, because if my condition rests at this particular point, this black color point, okay, so if my mixture of liquid and vapor is in this particular condition, then you can see it is closer to the saturated liquid line, which means most of it is liquid and only some of it is vapor. Okay, if my point lies here, or if my point lies here closer to the saturated vapor line, then most of it is vapor and only some of it is liquid. Okay, so we can find out how much amount is vapor and how much amount is liquid. So people use a terminology called dryness fraction. People use a terminology called dryness fraction. See, the word dry represents vapor. Okay, liquid is in a wet state, right? So vapor should be in a dry state. So when they say dryness fraction, they mean what is the fraction of vapor in a mixture of vapor and water, or vapor and liquid. What is the mixture of vapor in a mixture of vapor and liquid? So there is one formula for it, and we write it as M suffix G. G stands for gas. Okay, vapor is in gaseous phase. Okay, so we call it as gas. Okay, divided by MF. F stands for fluid. In this case, liquid. Okay, liquid is also called as fluid, right? So for to represent the liquid, they call it as MF. To represent the vapor, they call it as gas. So mg divided by mf plus mg. So this mf plus mg is nothing but the total mass. It is the total mass. So the total mass is m, and in the total mass, what is the amount of vapor present in the total mass? That is called dryness fraction. Mg divided by mf plus mg. That is your dryness fraction. Okay. So so if I have a point here, or before going into that, say suppose, let me take point B. What is the volume? We can represent this point B as VF. We can represent this point B as VF because everything is liquid. So we can say this is, we usually represent it as small v, so specific volume. So specific volume of the fluid, okay, or the specific volume of the liquid. Point C, we can call it as Vg because it is in the vapor, saturated vapor line. So it is Vg. What if it is in between? If it is in between, then I can represent it only with the value of X. If it is on the saturated liquid line, I can represent it as Vf. If it is in the saturated vapor line, I can represent it as Vg. Okay. And in some cases, we will also be talking about Hf and Hg. Okay, which means specific enthalpy of the steam or of the mixture at the saturated liquid line and the specific enthalpy at the saturated vapor line. Sometimes we also use specific entropy at the saturated liquid line and specific entropy at the saturated vapor line. And I have already talked about specific volume. Specific volume at the saturated liquid line and specific volume at the saturated vapor line. So we will be using something called the steam tables, which I have already published in the Google Classroom, and I also If time permits, I will show you that also in this particular session. Okay. So up to this, is this clear to you guys? Or do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts or clarifications, you can ask me, or else I can proceed further. Up to this clear? Okay. So I'll take it as clear and I'll just go forward. Okay. So the definition I have told you, dryness fraction, it is the fraction of vapor present in a mixture of water and vapor. And I have given you this particular formula. Okay. And if you take this particular diagram, say suppose, so just remember this diagram. Okay. Say suppose I have a certain volume of a mixture. Okay. Say suppose I have got 5 meter cube of, I have got 5 meter cube of vapor and steam. 5 meter cube of a mixture of vapor and steam. And in that 5 meter cube of vapor of mixture and steam, okay, the volume occupied by the fluid is 3 meter cube. Okay, and the volume occupied by the gas is 2 meter cube. For an example, just for an example to make you understand. Okay, so volume, total volume is the volume of the fluid plus the volume of gas. Volume of the fluid is nothing but volume of water plus the volume of vapor. Okay, which I can also write it like this. This capital V can be written as m into small v, where m is the mass of the mixture, v is the specific volume of the mixture. The unit for mass is kilogram, unit for specific volume is meter cube per kilogram. So if I cancel out kilogram and kilogram, it will once again become volume, capital V. Okay. So I replace capital V with m small v, and I replace Vf with mfvf, which means mass of the fluid into the specific volume of the fluid, because that can change, plus mass of the vapor into specific volume of the vapor. Okay, so mass of the vapor into specific volume of the vapor. But what you can make sure is the total mass of the mixture is equal to mass of the fluid plus mass of the vapor. There is no doubt about it. That is for sure. So m is equal to mf plus mg. No doubt about it. Okay. The only thing is m into small v is mf into small vf m plus mg into small vg. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to bring this m here down here. Okay. So if I divide this whole equation by m, if I divide, so if I divide by small m, what I'll have is small v equal to, which means specific volume of the mixture is equal to mf divided by m times small vf. Okay, plus mg divided by m into small vg. Okay, what about this, guys? What is this mg divided by m? This mg divided by m is nothing but mg divided by mf plus mg. Look at this, the same one, mg divided by mf plus mg. So I can replace this term with x. Small m is mf plus mg. So mg divided by mf plus mg is x, dryness fraction. Okay, so this particular term would be x. Okay, and what is this mf by m? Mf by m. So mf by m.
1 minus x.
Yeah, it is 1 minus x. Very good. So mf by m would be 1 minus x. Do you want to show me how it is done? So mf divided by MF plus mg. So MF can be written as m minus mg. Okay, so I can replace this MF with m minus mg divided by m. I am replacing MF with m minus mg. Okay, and so I can write this as m by m minus mg by m. M by m is 1, mg by m is nothing but x. Okay, so m minus mg by m becomes 1 minus x. So this particular term is 1 minus x. So this term is 1 minus x and this term is x. Okay, so your small v has now become 1 minus x into Vf plus x times Vg. So now what you can do is, if you open this braces or the brackets, you will have Vf minus x into Vf plus x into Vg. This x is common, so I can write this as Vf plus x into Vg minus Vf. Okay, and this Vg minus Vf is called as Vfg. Okay, Vg minus Vf is called as Vfg. So you have Vf plus x into V suffix fg. So final state minus initial state, so we call it as Vfg. So that is the formula for small v. So using this formula, we will be able to identify what is the volume of a particular mixture for a particular dryness fraction. Okay, so if you have a mixture at this particular point, and if you are able to identify the value of x, and if you know the value of Vf and Vg, then you will be able to get the value of this specific volume of the mixture. Okay, in a similar way, just like I did this for specific volume, you can also do it for specific enthalpy and entropy. You can start writing like H is equal to HF plus Hg. So I want you guys to try this on your own. If it is a regular class, I will do it. But then if I have to write it like this for the whole thing, it is very time consuming. So the next step, what you can write it as m into small h is equal to mf into small hf plus mg into small hg. Mg into small hg. The next step, what should you do? Divide it by m. Then you will have h equal to mf by m into hf plus mg by m into hg. Follow the same steps. Replace this term with 1 minus x. So you will get 1 minus x into hf plus x into hg. Open the brackets. So finally, you will get h equal to hf plus x into hfg. Okay, the only thing is, sorry, The only thing is we are replacing V with H. Similarly, you can also write it for specific entropy. You will have SF plus X into SFG. SFG. Is it clear, guys? Were you able to follow? Or is it? So you guys have to tell me whether you were able to understand this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. In a regular class, I will be able to see your face. Now it's like simply talking to a wall, so I don't have any idea. Okay, so for the rest, so for specific enthalpy and specific entropy, please try it. Okay, if you try it, then you will know how it is being done, so that even if you miss out the formula a couple of times, if you work it out, then it will get registered in your mind. Okay, so this is how we arrive at these three simple equations, and we will be using these formulae again and again, not only for this basic thermodynamics course. In the next semester, applied thermodynamics also, we will be using it in almost any cycle that involves steam. Okay, and in the refrigeration and air conditioning subject, in case of refrigerants also, we will be using this. Wherever you have phase change, we will be using this particular formula, because dryness fraction is the same for any phase change process. Okay, and this is a pressure temperature curve, just like we did in case of a temperature volume. Here we have a pressure temperature curve, and you would be familiar with the sublimation. Sublimation is a process where a solid gets converted into vapor straight away without passing through the liquid state. Solid gets converted into vapor. And here we have a line here. If you look at this particular line up to this particular line is called a sublimation line. And in the sublimation line, solid and vapor phases are in equilibrium, which means at this particular line, you can find both the solid as well as vapor phase. Okay. And if you look at this line from the top, this is called the fusion line. In the fusion line, you will find that the solid and the liquid phases are in equilibrium, which means in this particular line, you will find both solid as well as liquid. Okay, and this one we have already seen, vaporization line, where your vapor water starts converting into vapor. So you will find both liquid as well as vapor, where your vapor starts emerging. Okay, and you can see that all these three are meeting at one point, and we call it as triple point. At this particular point, all the three will coexist: solid, liquid, and vapor. All the three will coexist at one point, which is called triple point, and that is nothing but 273.15 Kelvin. Okay, so 0 degrees centigrade approximately. So that is your triple point. Okay, so the triple point is the point where all the three phases are in equilibrium, where solid, liquid, and vapor coexist. Okay, and you can see, sorry, I'll take another one, a green color here. So you can see there is a line AB. Okay, this is not visible. So there, let me take a line AB. So you can see this red color line is the sublimation line. So everything above this line is solid, and everything below the sublimation line is in vapor state. Okay, so when I move from A to B, that means when I raise the temperature, as I raise the temperature from A to B at constant pressure, if it is a horizontal line, pressure is maintained constant. You can see you are moving from solid phase to a vapor phase. Okay, at a higher pressure, this was at a lower pressure. At a lower pressure, when I heat, I move from solid to vapor state. At a higher pressure, when I heat it at constant pressure, the pressure is high. Say maybe if this is 1 bar and maybe this is at 5 bar. Okay, just for an example, I am telling it's not exactly 1 and 5, just for an example. At a higher pressure, but at constant pressure, if I raise the temperature, you can see that the solid moves to the liquid phase, and if you further heat it, it will move to the vapor phase. So this is the solid phase, this is the liquid phase, and this is the vapor phase. Okay. So when you heat it at a higher pressure, you can go through all these. And we have already talked about this critical point. At this critical point, you will not be able to say whether it is saturated liquid or saturated vapor. Both of them are identical. And above that, you will not be able to precisely say whether it is the saturated liquid or saturated vapor at all. Okay. They are in superheated state. So GH, so this side is actually liquid, this side is actually vapor. So when you heat it, you will not be able to precisely say when it became vapor, when it becomes liquid. We will not be able to see that. We will not be able to say that. It is at a very high pressure and it is also at a higher temperature. Okay, so that is the superheated state. And this we have drawn between pressure and temperature. This is a pressure temperature curve. Okay, in the next session I will also show you the temperature volume diagram. So in today's class I was not able to do that. So in the next class I'll show you that. Okay, so we have to enter into this problem, but before entering into this problem, I'll show you something called steam tables. Okay, and we will be requiring that. You have steam, the application of steam comes into picture, then we go for steam tables. Okay, so and you can see that the some of the formulae which we have talked about are mentioned here also. Okay, so this H equal to, oh, I'm not able to see that. Okay, so just follow the cursor. Are you able to see the cursor? So this H equal to M into HF plus X into HFG. M stands for your mass. So this is per unit mass, so they have taken it as 1. So H equal to HF plus X into HFG. S equal to SF plus X into HFG. They are taking the value of M as 1. So this M, that actually doesn't have a meaning here because the value of M is 1. Okay. Okay. And they have given you a couple of examples, but I'll show you the tables. Okay. If you look at the first table, so bear with me, I'm not able to rotate it. This is how they have scanned it, so I can't change it. So this is table 1. You can look at it here. This is called table 1, and it is written as saturated water and steam, and within bracket it is called the temperature table. Okay, which means what they will give is they will give you the saturation temperatures. You can see the temperature is in degrees centigrade. So for 0 degrees centigrade, what is the corresponding saturated pressure? That is given in bar. So the second column, you can see absolute pressure in bar. Similarly, for 1 degree centigrade, what is the corresponding pressure? For 10 degrees centigrade here, what is the corresponding pressure? Okay, you can see that. Okay, and you can also see VF. VF is the specific volume at the saturated liquid line. Vg, that is the specific volume at the saturated vapor line. So for 1 degree centigrade, 0.001000, that is your VF. 192.61, that is your specific volume at the saturated vapor line. Are you guys following me? Okay. Similarly, you can see this is specific enthalpy. The unit is in kilojoule per kilogram. HF, this is 4.2 is for 1 degree centigrade. And HG, that is 2503.1 degree centigrade. Okay, and you can also see in some steam tables, this HFG value will be available. In some cases, it will not be available. This HFG is nothing but this HG minus HF. So 2503.4 minus 4.2, you will get 2499.2. That is your HFG. HFG is nothing but HG minus HF. Okay. Similarly, you can also find specific entropy. SF, SG, and SFG. SFG is nothing but SG minus SF. That is also in kilojoule per kilogram Kelvin. Don't worry about entropy. We will discuss that very precisely in the third unit. But to give you an introduction, I have shown you the steam tables. So this is table 1. Oh, this is a big problem here. If I'm able to do the page numbers, that is also not possible. Okay. So table 1, it is your saturated temperature table. Okay, so the first column is the temperature. Okay, and then you have the corresponding pressure, specific volume, etc. And that will be there for 2 or 3 or 4 pages. So this is the third page. You can see the temperature up to 79. Okay, and it goes up to 374.15 because 374.15 is your critical temperature. If you remember 374.14 degrees centigrade, we said that is the critical temperature, and 22.06 megapascal is your corresponding critical pressure. So here they have given it as 22.12 megapascal or 221.2 bar. So that is your critical pressure. So up to this, that is your table 1. Okay. And table 2, you can look at it. It is saturated water and steam, but it is pressure table, which means the first table, the first column will be in pressure. So they have given the values of pressure. So you can see 0.0061 bar. Everything is in bar, and temperature is in degree centigrade. So they have started with 0 degree centigrade. The corresponding pressure is 0.0061. And just like the previous case, you also have VF and VG. And just like the previous case, you have HF and HG. HG minus HF will give you HFG. And the next column will be SF, SFG, and SG. The only difference is this is in terms of pressure. The first column is in terms of pressure. So you can have any type of problem. In some problem, they will give you the temperature. And so if they give you the temperature, you can refer to table 1. So for this particular temperature, the corresponding VF value is this much. And you can start solving the problem. There you don't require the pressure at all. And in some problems, they give you the pressure. Then you have to use table 2. So for if the problem is, say, for 1 bar, then you go to the third page in table 2. Third page in table 2, you have got 1 bar. So for 1 bar, the corresponding saturated temperature is 99.6. For it, the VF is this much. For this, the VG is this much. You can note down that values, and whatever they are asking you to solve, you can solve them. Okay, are you able to understand? Okay, so that is your table number 2, and that will be there for another 4 or 5 pages. Okay, up to that 221 bar, you will have the table. Okay, so here you have 221.2 bar. So up to this, you will have table 2, which is saturated pressure table. And then we also said in the presentation, there is something called a superheated state. So table 3, 4, and 5, we will talk about superheated steams. And this table will be slightly different. They will give you the pressure. The first column is the pressure. The second column is the corresponding saturation temperature. Okay. I'll once again go to this slide, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on. Okay. And here you can see, let's take an example. Say here, 1 bar. 1 bar is here. For 1 bar, the corresponding temperature is 99.6. So 1 bar is the saturated pressure. For that saturation pressure, the corresponding saturation temperature is 99.6. What do you mean by that? So at 99.6 degrees centigrade, the steam, the water gets converted into vapor, latent heat. Okay. And if the temperature goes above 99.6, then the vapor will get converted into superheated vapor. Okay. So your maximum temperature is 99.6. So even at 100, you can see the first is 100. So for 100 degrees centigrade, the specific volume would be 1.696. If the temperature is 150, then the steam will further expand and it will become 1.936. For 200, 300, 400, it goes on. Okay. Table number 5. Pressure, temperature, and then you will have entropy. Okay. I have just shown you the table, and as we solve the problem, you will be able to understand how to use them. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, we will use them, so don't worry. So we will start with one problem today so that you can have a feel of how it is being done. And the problem that we are taking today, it is very, very simple. So if such a question is coming, it will be for a 2-mark question. This is not a 5-mark question or 11-mark question. It is simply a 2-mark question. Okay. Determine the state for each of the water states using steam tables. This problem will also be not there in your problem sheet. Okay, because I usually take your substances later on. This problem I have taken from Sontag. Okay,
Sir,
yeah,
Yes, sir.
sir, slide is not visible.
yes. I forgot to do that. Just a minute. Um, it should be visible now. Okay. Okay. The first example. Determine the state for each of the water states using steam tables. Subdivision A. The steam is at 120 degrees centigrade and 500 kilopascal. So 500 kilopascal means 500 into 10 to the power 3 Pascal, which means 5 into 10 to the power 5 Pascal, which is 5 bar. Okay, so 120 degrees centigrade and 5 bar. The second subdivision is 120 degrees centigrade and 0.5 meter cube. Okay, I'll just expand this, but I have to go between the steam tables. So what shall I do? Okay, we will try doing that. See, for this, now what you should do is, bear with me, we have to switch between the slide and the steam table so that you have to understand this. Okay, let's take subdivision A. Okay, here they have given the temperature is 120. The temperature is 120. And they have given the pressure is 5 bar. 500 kilopascal can also be written as 5 bar. Be familiar with this, please. Okay. So 120 degrees centigrade and 5 bar. That is the condition of the steam that they have given. Using this, we should find out whether it is in liquid state, which means whether it is a water, is it in the liquid plus vapor state, or is it in the superheated region, whether it is purely in vapor form. We should identify that state. That is what they are asking us to do. Okay. Don't worry, I'm just switching on to Chrome tab here. Here it is. Okay, this problem can be solved in 2 ways. They have given T equal to 120 degree and pressure P equal to 5 bar. Okay, so let's start with the easiest one. Okay, so what we will do is we will go to the pressure table. Pressure table is a table 1 or table 2? It is table 2. Okay, so let's go to table 2. And in table 2, the pressure what they have mentioned is, what was the pressure? 3 bar, right? 5 bar, 500 kilopascal. Okay, so for 500 kilopascal, the steam table is visible, right? So for 500 kilopascal, you can look at this particular page. So I have taken table 2, which is the pressure table, and the pressure you can see P equal to 5 bar. Okay, so for P equal to 5 bar, the volume VF is 0.001093. Okay, if you guys have a notebook, write it down. For P equal to 5 bar, for P equal to 5 bar, don't write VF, first write T saturated, T suffix SAT. For P equal to 5 bar, T suffix saturated is 151.8. Okay, the temperature is 151.8. What is the temperature that is given to us in the problem? They have given the temperature as 120 degrees centigrade, correct? So they have given a temperature 120, but we are finding that for the pressure, the temperature is 151.8 degrees centigrade. Is it not? The temperature is, what is the temperature? The temperature is 120 degrees centigrade. So I have written it wrongly here. So the given temperature is actually lesser than the saturated temperature. Okay. So if the given temperature is lesser than the saturated temperature, I'll stop sharing this. Let's go back to our class and go back to our presentation. See, this was the diagram that we had. Okay. So the left side of the graph is liquid plus liquid region. The center we have got liquid plus vapor, and here we have got the vapor phase. Okay. Now what we are seeing is the temperature is, given temperature is 120. The saturated temperature is 151. What do you mean by that? The saturated temperature, say just for an example, we can't be, here the pressures are different. Just for your understanding, I am utilizing the same picture. Don't confuse with the values of pressure and temperature given here. I am just taking this for explanation work. Please don't take the values here. Just look at the explanation. Okay. So this is the saturation temperature. So they have said the saturation temperature is 151.8. Is it not? That is what we have seen from the steam tables. This temperature is 151.8. And what the temperature that is given to us is 120, which is lower than the saturation temperature. Okay. And we know that the pressure is how much? 5 bar. Okay. Which means if instead of 1 bar, say suppose this is a 5 bar line, just for an example, if this is a 5 bar line, this particular point is 151.8. So 120 degree will be somewhere here, right? And where is this particular point located? Is it in the liquid region? Is it in the liquid plus vapor region, or is it in the vapor region? Are you guys following me? See, if it is 120 degrees centigrade, and because it is a constant temperature line, okay, or I'll go here. So here I'll draw this. Okay, so this is your bell curve. Okay, this is my 5 bar constant pressure line. Okay, this is my 5 bar constant pressure line. Okay, and what is given to us in the problem is, just now we found out from the steam tables at this particular point, because this line is the saturation line, correct? Where the vaporization of steam's water into vapor begins, that is this point. And at this point, everything becomes steam. So this is your, so the corresponding temperature here, the corresponding temperature here is 151.8. We saw that from the steam tables. So for 5 bar, the corresponding saturation temperature is 151.8 degrees centigrade. Okay. And in the problem, what is given to us is 120. 120 means it is a lower temperature. Okay. But the pressure is going to remain the same. So if the pressure remains the same, so my 120 degrees centigrade should match my 5 bar. And so this could be the point. So now tell me from the picture, is it in the liquid region or liquid plus vapor region, or is it in the vapor region? Where do we have that state? Liquid,
Liquid.
sir. So what do we infer from this? If if the given temperature T is lesser than the saturation temperature, if the given temperature is lesser than the saturation temperature, then we can say that it is in liquid state. So for the condition 120 degrees centigrade and 500 kilopascal, your T is lesser than T saturated. So the condition is in liquid state. Okay. I have written this wrongly. I have written this as T greater than T sat. So I have changed it as T lesser than T state. So this is not in the superheated steam state. This is in the liquid phase. Okay. I have written this wrongly. Okay. While writing it, I have written it wrongly. So this is in liquid state. Okay. This is not in the superheated steam state. T is lesser than T sat. Okay. If T is greater than T sat, okay, we will go to the previous slide. It is not given to us in the problem, but let's say if in the problem instead of 120 degrees centigrade, if they have given it as 200 degrees centigrade, so 200 degrees centigrade would be here. That would be the 200 degrees centigrade temperature line. So 200 degrees centigrade at constant pressure line, if both of them meet, this would be the point. So if this is the point here, then that is in superheated state. So if T is lesser than T state, we call it as liquid phase. If T is greater than T sat, then we call it as superheated state or vapor phase. Is that clear, guys? If T is lesser than T sat, then that is liquid state. If T is greater than T sat, it is in vapor phase. But when it is lesser than T sat, people also call this as compressed liquid, because the temperature is less. It is called as compressed liquid or subcooled liquid. It is called as compressed liquid or subcooled liquid. The temperature is lower than the temperature is lower than the saturation temperature. So it is called as subcooled liquid. Okay. And because the temperature is greater than the saturated, we have already called this as superheated steam. Okay. You can have this in mind. Okay. And if you look at the next subdivision, 120 degrees centigrade and 0.5 meter cube per kilogram. Okay, the temperature is the same, 120 degrees centigrade and 0.5 meter cube per kilogram. Okay, for this case, pressure value is not given. So we have to go for the table 1, saturated temperature table only we can look at. Okay, so I'll stop sharing once again. I'll go back to the steam tables. So I have to present a tab, and that is your steam tables. So we will have to go to table 1, and remember the temperature is 120. Okay. Okay, here it is. So the first one, that is 120 degrees centigrade. And if you look at it for 120 degrees centigrade, they have not mentioned anything about the pressure. So with the help of pressure, we will not be able to say anything at all. Okay. But what they have given us, the volume is 0.5 meter cube per kilogram. Okay, look at VF. VF is 0.001061. This is less than 0.5, obviously. What about VG? That is 0.89152. And this is greater than 0.5. It is V 0.5 is greater than 0.001 and 0.5 is lesser than 0.89. So here the given volume, it lies between the specific volume at the saturated liquid state and the specific volume at the saturated vapor state. It lies somewhere in between. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Can anyone of you tell me if the volume, the given volume is lying between the saturated liquid state and the saturated vapor state? What is that particular state? Is it in the liquid state or liquid plus vapor state, or is it in the vapor state?
Liquid plus vapor state.
Liquid plus vapor, sir.
Very good. Because it is between the vapor state and the liquid state, it should lie in the liquid plus vapor state. Okay. So I'll go back to the slide. So these are some of the difficulties which we face in online class. What can we do? Okay. So now I have referred to the saturated temperature table for 120 degrees centigrade, and we found that Vf is only 0.001061 and Vg is 0.89152, and the given specific volume lies between Vf and Vg. So the given condition lies in vapor and liquid region. Just now we derived this, so V equal to Vf plus X into Vfg. The given volume is 0.5. Vf is this much. Vfg is nothing but Vg minus Vf. We have seen that. So I have written the value of Vg minus Vf, and the unknown value is X. So X is 0.56, which means 56% of the content is vapor and the remaining 44% is liquid content. Okay. So they have not asked us to find out X, they have simply asked us to identify the state. So the first subdivision, the state was in liquid form. The second subdivision, we have found that the state is in liquid plus vapor state.